their extended families, and a few other explorers to a peaceful lake where her father was building a home. The day was a canvas of promise, and the air was electric with anticipation. Bob's last-minute call changed their plans from a different picnic to a trip from Ottawa to this lovely lake's unspoiled shores. An unknown region greeted them with untouched splendor, promising an excursion beyond the usual. As the morning sun warmed the landscape, the men worked on the construction project, while the afternoon promised a boat ride, which thrilled the kids. While most of the guys rested on the shore, her father and probably 2 or 3 others took a break. They waited on land as the rest of their group, 8 people, boarded a small fishing boat for 5. The group included Bob, his wife, their 2 diapered children, her mother, her 3 siblings, and herself. They went on their boat ride, but fate intervened. The boat capsized when its motor failed. Interestingly, none could swim. Her brother was saved by a tightly zipped fox leather jacket that trapped enough air to sustain him. She held on to him underwater by miracle. She was lifeless when they hauled her ashore after a heroic search for all the passengers. They were lucky because one of the men on the shore had watched a CPR show. He bravely tried it, hoping for a pleasant outcome. Their efforts revived her. In that key era, her experience was neither a dazzling light or ladder to paradise. Instead, she entered a darkly lighted room full of people. It felt like a family reunion, filled with love, where everyone appeared to connect with her in some way. Friends and family showed unbounded affection. She felt like she was lounging by a fireside under a quilt. She felt overjoyed despite her bewilderment. Her grandmother's voice rang forth. Her grandma, who died a year before, told her to return because it wasn't her time. Her father spoke up when she said she wanted to stay. She was told to return and care for her mother. She reluctantly consented and woke up in a new house, naked, begging for her mother. She also wants to share her observations into events in the ethereal realm. The motor sputtered and the boat filled with water. Her mother and Nora panicked and got up, unwittingly turning the boat over. Bob, her mother, Nora, and Bob's children, who had never had swimming lessons, could not swim. Nora was on one side of the boat and her mother on the other. 2 newborns were delicately hoisted and placed atop the boat, their feather-light frames keeping it afloat. Debbie, her sister, clung to Nora's side, fingers grabbing the overturned boat. She and her brother, farther from the crashed craft, were unreachable. Debbie panicked in the midst of chaos, citing the common belief that strength multiplies tenfold. She grabbed Nora out of dread. This deed tragically killed Nora. Bystanders grasped the accident's significance as mayhem escalated. Her father and 2 other men ran toward the scene to get closer. After arriving, they quickly found another boat and began saving lives. Despite the ordeal, they didn't return her mother to the boat for fear it would capsize. While Nora was found instantly, her father and sister took almost 2 days to discover. The tragedy shows her father's love for his family. His last gesture of devotion was cradling her sister in the sea when found. She saw her mother after 2 to 3 days. One of her uncles took her brother and her back to the city, where they stayed until her mother could tell her that her father and Debbie had died in the boat disaster. Nora died in those seas too. Her father, first stationed on the shore, ran around the lake, via a swamp, and then dove into the water near the capsized sailboat. As a child, her father's swimming skills were well known, and she remembered his teenage thrill of crossing the Ottawa River. Her father reached the boat after her sister's fear had drowned Nora, but he too drowned trying to save her. Her life was forever changed by the loss of 3 lives. What happened next was extraordinary. Her first childhood near-death experience. Such meetings have many names, but for her, they changed her life. At 9 or 10, she started Sunday school, which deepened her religion. Her near-death experience left her with an overpowering sensation of affection, whether from family or a greater power, etched on her youthful age. Unexpectedly, This event strengthened her trust in God and her lifelong devotion to kindness. Her second near-death encounter occurred at 20 to 22 years old during her nursing career. Due to her asthma, dentists were hesitant to remove her wisdom teeth. Due to long hospital waiting lists in Ottawa, she was scheduled for day surgery with post-op monitoring. A 2-hour drive. The surgery went well, but anesthetic caused a heart-stopping recovery reaction. She was astonished to find herself above the medical team's frenzied attempts and chats. Returning to her body abruptly, the hospital staff said it was minimal, but she asked whether her heart had stopped. She was confused, but the doctor confirmed her perspective was false. As she repeated a statement she overheard during the emergency, the doctor left quickly, his face pale. The doctor and mother ignored her report of the experience's tremendous influence. Despite this, she helped dying people as a nurse. She comforted them in their final days or without family. Her presence, words, and actions were significant. She sat with patients and read or talked softly. She thought she saw a soul leave at death twice. First, mist rose from the body near the heart and dissipated into the air. The second time, a talkative patient's essence rose from her body, and she saw her leave. These encounters inspired her to consider becoming a death doula to help people transition to the afterlife. She stressed not fearing death. Our bodies are transient vessels, and she urged respecting everyone, especially the homeless, who were part of families and communities. As a nurse, she addressed everyone formally until requested otherwise. Her encounters on buses and in public settings were based on her beliefs.